You're listening to Product Biz Made Easy. This is episode 41, and today we're talking to Sarah Foster. She is the owner and founder of Bad Bad Jewelry, and she gets really deep into how she's been able to build her business online, and she gets very vulnerable and talks about burnout. And at the end, she flips the questions on me. So this is a great interview, you guys. You're going to want to stick around.
Welcome to the Product Biz Made Easy podcast, where we help you scale your product-based business. Your award-winning host and serial entrepreneur, Becky J. Anderson, created an 8-figure product-based brand that was sold all over the world and in big box retail stores. Each week, she will be sharing sales strategies, marketing advice, or inspiring interviews to help you scale your product-based business. Now, on to the show.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for being on the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Becky, it is such a pleasure. I've been so excited and looking forward to this.
Oh, good. Well, I can't wait to dig into your business and tell everybody about it because you've got a really fun business. For those that don't know you, do you want to tell everybody about your business and how you got started?
Yeah, so I'm going into my 7th year doing Bad Bad Jewelry. It's all handmade jewelry. It's essentially just hand-stamped pieces of metal with lots of colorful, explicit language, but all with the intention of being empowering. It's kind of like a secret weapon for a lot of women. It's just a really rad confidence booster. And I started 7 years ago. I've made jewelry since I was, I can't remember, 8, 9, 10. And I've been on a journey since then.
Yeah, I love how you've taken your jewelry and niched it down into a message.
Yeah.
So you've really got a good, unique selling proposition. What gave you that idea? How did you do that? Well,
of course, it starts when I'm really frustrated, right? When it's like you kind of hit a low point. Before I started Bad Bad, I had another jewelry brand I'd created. It was all one-of-a-kind pieces, mostly beaded, semi-precious stones, and it was a lot of fun. And I actually got my foot in the door in a lot of places, but selling on Etsy, setting up at, I'm in San Diego, so surf shops or nightclubs, it was for one-of-a-kind pieces. That was a lot of work. And I was working a full-time job as an executive assistant. And I just was like, I can't do this anymore. I mean, I was young and hustling and I had the energy to do it. Not that I'm like some old haggard woman now, but
you're still very young.
Yeah. But when you're just so driven to like go do something else because you're supposed to, you're willing to put in the work. But even after a few months of that, I probably did it for 6 months or a year, maybe somewhere around there. I was just exhausted with one-of-a-kind designs, selling them in person and online. So, and around that time I'd met my now husband, but we were starting to date back then. And he was able to kind of keep us afloat if I decided to just step away and figure out what I was doing. I ended up quitting my executive assistant job at the time because it was going well. But anyway, so I kind of closed down shop. I technically quit jewelry, but one of my best friends, as she always says, she's like, you'll never quit jewelry. You say you're quitting, but I know what you're doing when nobody's around. You're making it. But anyway, it got to this point where and this is kind of a lesson inside of a lesson. I was just pooped out, right? I was exhausted. So I took a break and my husband was paying our bills. We lived 40 feet from the beach here in San Diego, in Mission Beach. And I was just kind of living this life of luxury. But I will tell you this, I know that's what everybody strives for, but honestly, when you sit on the beach day in and day out, and you read books and you make jewelry, that's fun in the beginning, but it actually gets really mundane, especially for those of us who are creative, our brain's going, we want to work, we want to interact with people, we want to make a difference. So it got to this point where I'm like, what do I do? So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go back. I'm going to get an executive assistant job again. I'm going to make more money than I was before. And I'm going to work my butt off until I figure out what the heck I'm supposed to do with my life. Because I've been on this rampage since I was 20-ish to figure out like what my purpose was. If that's such a thing, I'm going to figure it out. So I get an executive assistant job, and I kid you not, I think it was in the first month or 3 months of working there, I had this whole business idea, probably while I was sitting at the desk, because I'm forever a daydreamer. But what I ended up doing is one night just stopping by this bead shop that I love to shop at. And they had a 50% off sale, which we all know in retail, that's just like, what? But
Yeah.
they did that often. And so I and my girlfriends who were into beading, we'd all just wait for that sale. And on a whim, one day I bought a box of stamps and the lead, is that what it is? I use it every day. I'm like, is it lead? Anyway, a lead block, and a hammer, all 50% off. I think I dropped less than 30 or 40 bucks. It's not a lot. Went home. I had a couple pieces of metal in my jewelry supplies. So I just started hammering. And I think one of the first words that I'm pretty sure the first word I stamped was of explicit language. See, I grew up super Christian. And so my family is really religious. And I've always kind of been a rebellious person, but kind at the same time, you know, not wanting to tick anybody off, but also knowing that, like, I just wanted to do my own thing. So of course it was an explicit piece of language. I turned that into a ring, and I still had a good friendship with my friend who owned a surf shop there on right by the beach. So I made a few pieces that week, and I decided to take it to the surf shop and set up. And sure enough, I made 3 of these rings. I don't know if Becky, if it's okay to cuss, but they all had the F-bomb on it. They said F it, essentially. And
They probably sold out the first day.
they sold out the first day. And I was like, oh my gosh. But here's the thing, when I created it too, this was really important to me. I'm not somebody, I really believe in taking personal ownership, being responsible for your words and your actions, not being mean to other people, being really accepting and loving. And so my designs were never meant to be like, you know, screw the world, F the man, any of that, or like screw other people, it's all their fault. I've never been that way. It's really to empower people, empower women to really take responsibility and ownership of their life. And so when I made these rings that said F it, I'm like, are people going to get this? Like, it's not F them, it's F it, like the fears, the stories,
situation, everything.
Yeah. And like, do what you want and, you know, take your power back kind of thing. So I sold out of those rings. That was really cool. I still have pictures of them. Becky, they look like junk, like just absolute junk. And I set up again the next week. And, you know, I'm still working my executive assistant job, just kind of making jewelry in the evening. My husband was a bouncer at the time, so he was working nights. So it was just me and the dog at night. And I make jewelry and watch movies. A girl comes back the next week to the surf shop because I set up on the sidewalk there. And she goes, hey, I bought this ring last week. And I'm like, uh-oh, what happened? Like, poor quality. I did a horrible quality inspection. She's like, I actually broke up with my long-term boyfriend, and it's been really hard. And for some reason, wearing this ring has just made it a lot easier. And I know what I've started to like see what my worth is. And I'm really looking forward to finding that person when it's the right time. But right now I'm like really happy with who I am. And like, what do you say to that? You know, I'm like, oh my God, not only did this woman get it, she just applied, like she applied it. Yeah. She applied it. She took it beyond anything I could even imagine, you know?
Yeah.
I'm in a happy relationship. I'm not thinking about breakups. It's just like the general message. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I think this is it. I think I found it. And at that point too, I was making jewelry to wear for myself. You know, the job I did get was with this just not good guy, like horrible morals, all this stuff. But I was there. I wanted this job. I wanted the money. And if I was going to be like the crusader and like helping his business out, because he was working, he had contractors that were great people and he was treating them like crap. I'm like, you know what? I stand up for things that I believe in. And so there's certain things that he'd say to me and I'd just be like, no, that's not okay. That doesn't fly. And so I had to empower myself to have really difficult conversations and stand up to somebody who's paying my bills, but also being that gatekeeper, and knowing that I'm also the face of the brand, so to speak, and just wanting to do good in the world, right? I don't know if that translates, but so I knew I needed these messages to empower myself. And at the same time, I really got back into weightlifting. So I had a bracelet that said lift heavy S, you know, lift heavy crap. And my girlfriends were like, wait, I want to wear my own goals. I want to have a message. And so it just started to take off. And then somebody said, hey, have you thought about sending your designs over here, over there? And I was just like, I think this is it. I think I finally found it. And that whole purpose and calling thing that I was on this rampage to find stems from when I was 19 years old, I think, when I got in a car accident. I had a near-death experience, and I went to the hospital. I got home. I was released. I got home that night and just so shook as a 19-year-old.
Yeah, you would be. Yeah.
And you wake up to like the fragility of life, and I was just like, I could see my life flash before my eyes, and I'm like, I didn't get to say goodbye to like all these people. It's always gets me emotional. I didn't get to say, like, I've been a jerk to some people, like I haven't loved my mom the way that I know I could, and I've been a little bit of a brat, and like my brothers, they're so important to me, and I've never really told them that, and then I could see like the bigger scheme of things too. At 19 years old, I'm like, man, like the song YOLO by Drake or whatever came out decades later, but I was like, YOLO, you only live once, really sunk into my bones at that point. And I was like, I'm going to find something to do in this life that's going to make this world a slightly better place because of the work that I've done. And so that's when I started that journey. And I paired, I made jewelry since I was a little girl, and I've always written words. I've loved words. They saved my life when I was really little, because I really struggled with depression and lots of different things. And I used to just repeat phrases over and over to myself to make me feel better. And so that all kind of crescendoed, right? At this period of time when I'm making these designs, I'm using words, I'm doing personal empowerment, I'm impacting the world positively. And it's just like, it's like when you're driving down a freeway on a long road trip and your tires they slip into those like well-worn grooves that, truckers leave, and you're like, the comfort. That's what it felt like. I was like, I'm on track.
You found your thing. You found your message. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that story. So you've turned it into a huge business. So tell us, where do you sell your products? Like, you're on Etsy, or you were on Etsy, right?
Yeah. I started on Etsy. I do like interacting with people in person, but I'm actually really an introvert. So I love the ability to create what I want and just sell online. I'll do in-person events sometimes, but so I loved the idea of being online and staying at home. And so I started there, and then things started picking up. I was working with different influencers, and just stuff was like clicking in the beginning. And I decided, I really want to brand more. I really want to do my own website. So then I shifted over to Shopify, I think in I started this in 2013. 2000, something like that. I think it was 2 years, maybe 3 years into the business. I finally
did your own thing on Shopify. Yeah.
Yep.
And now, is that where primarily most of your sales come from, on Shopify?
Yep.
Are you on Amazon at all?
I just got on Amazon, but for a book that I wrote and published. That's totally on brand with the jewelry business. But I got over there, and I haven't been too impressed, to be completely honest. But we also haven't spent a lot of time working on the back end of stuff. I launched that book right before the holidays started to begin. And so I was like, all right, well, the Shopify site needs to take my focus right now, because obviously.
Yeah, Shopify is definitely your most important, because you collect all the information there.
Yep.
Just a lot of volume can happen on Amazon as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be on that Amazon Handmade.
Yeah, I've actually had a little bit of struggle getting there. I should be focusing some of my attention on that, but at the same time, like, the sales are going so well on Shopify that
keep them going. Yeah. So do you wholesale at all?
I do occasionally. So I used to wholesale to Nasty Gal, which for those of you that don't know, that are listening, Sophia Amoruso, who wrote that book, #GirlBoss, she started Nasty Gal on eBay, grew it. I think it was like one of the top 10 online retailers a couple of years or so. And so I wholesale. That was my first wholesale account, actually, which was huge. That was big. And then BuzzFeed picked me up, and I know we'll get to that in a little bit. But then they ended up, they promoted my stuff a few times. They just featured me without me knowing. And then it did so well that they're like, we're starting an online retail place. We want to wholesale your stuff. So they wholesale, or they did. And then, yeah, a couple random shops around the country will reach out and we have them go through an application process. And so we have maybe a handful of people that sell it, but I don't actively
pursue it.
Uh-uh.
You prefer the B2C. Well, the
I do.
B2C, direct
Yeah.
to the consumer, you definitely have better margins that way,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And these days, if you do the marketing right, you can get the volume as well. So
Yeah.
let's skip to you were on BuzzFeed. That is a big deal. And I have a lot of people
Yeah.
ask how to get on BuzzFeed. How did that happen for you?
What is it? I don't know. Like some unicorn made it happen. No, I really, it was kind of, if I think about the momentum, I was doing so much marketing then, and I was getting featured on professional female athletes and different celebrities which was kind of like growing outside of my own control, which I didn't care. You know, these were good people.
That's what you want. Yeah,
exactly. And I think there was just so much momentum and buzz that I found out a couple of years later. One of my really good friends, Amy, she had linked on BuzzFeed on like a comment thread on Facebook or something, like, well, maybe you should check out this jewelry brand, because I think it had some foul language article or something. And so I don't know if that was the thing. I don't know. There was just so much buzz and energy that they could have picked me up any other way. But here is the one thing that I kind of put two and two together. The article that I was first featured on was about something about like the best gifts for badass moms. And I think it was months later after I had my first $10,000, it was $11,000 in revenue that month. And I was like, what the heck? And it was all handmade by me, you know, like, ting, ting, ting. And, but I went back and I looked at that listing, and one of the tags that was, there was 13 tags, right, on Etsy. And one was badass, one was kick-ass, one was mom, amongst others. And I'm like, I wonder if that was like a search feature that I just like won the lottery. So that went really well. And get this, Becky, the picture that they used for the header of this, it was a blog post or an article, was
your ring or your necklace?
Yeah, it was my necklace. And get this, I took it with my iPhone. So everybody that's listening who might be in startup stages, I took it with my iPhone and I edited it on Snapseed. It's just horrible quality, but it was featured, and I think it just was just better enough than all the other like handmade designers. So I'm like, dude, I can't. That was awesome.
Action is better than not doing it and waiting. It's like, do what you can with what you have where you're at. That is an awesome story. So did you continue to see sales from that article after that, or was it just a big, huge rush right at that moment?
No, well, they featured, so that was early December, right? Perfect timing, because everybody's shopping anyway.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of gifts. So I saw a little bit more from that through Christmas, and then they featured me again. I can't remember if it was late January or February. So I don't even remember the design on that one. And more orders came in that way. But yeah, and here's the other thing too. The beautiful thing about my brand is it's not on the typical retail schedule. I think it's because it's more empowering, and that message, it really rings true through the beginning of the year. So my sales don't start to really die down until into spring.
Because they're motivational for the New Year's resolution. That's great. That's great. You've really nailed your unique selling proposition. I love it.
Yeah.
So tell me about collaborations. What kind of collaborations are you doing with influencers, and how do you find those?
Well, in the beginning, I really had my unique selling proposition in the fitness industry, because I was lifting so much. And that's when, like, I jumped on Instagram a couple years after it got started. And then that's like the origination of like fitness influencers, right? And influencers in general, because that's what really got traction in the beginning. And so I was just reaching out to women that I was following for my own personal inspiration. And I just comment, you know, I'm typically witty. And so I was making comments and getting to know some of these girls. And I'd just be like, hey, I make designs. I'd love to make you a custom piece if you don't mind sharing it. You know, it was all organic. It was no big deal, you know? And so that's really who I started working with. Now I don't so much work with other influencers. The beautiful thing is the product sells really easily. So if it just gets in front of people, it sells. And I've kind of like I went general. I'm not so much into the fitness side of it. I have a couple products that might be along those lines, but I went general for a while because I was pivoting in my life, and now it's kind of like still a wide angle on it, but niching back down into that personal empowerment, goal setting. And I do notice that I've started to attract more entrepreneurs, more women who are transitioning into online businesses, and that makes sense. I talk a lot about that in social media, and we kind of all get each other, right? Because it's all like,
absolutely. Yeah. I really love how you've honed in on that message. So, how do you market your products? What kind of strategies are you using? Are you email marketing, social media? Share some of that with us.
Yeah, so mostly those two. And I got to say, I'm not even that great at it. In fact, as of yesterday, Becky, I'm so burnt out. And here's, I'm, like I said earlier, I'm an open book. I can see some mistakes that I've made along the way. And yesterday they got really clear because I realized I needed to hire a marketing person a while ago while we were on top of the game and I was figuring out what worked. Because you know how it is when you're running a business and you're doing all the things, you get so burnt out. And that's like, you need marketing to get sales and be consistent. So we're actually taking applications right now to have somebody who's local to San Diego or LA area come in and start doing this with me. But the two platforms, and it doesn't take much either. Like a little bit of marketing goes so far for us.
It does. It's just consistency is the key.
Consistency, yeah.
Yeah.
But Instagram and Facebook mostly. I've tried on Pinterest a bit, but Pinterest doesn't really like foul language. So,
do all of your products have foul language in them?
No,
just some of them.
Yeah, but that is what draws people in. And at first I thought, oh no, like, is this okay to do? Am I going to alienate people? Especially because I grew up Christian. I went to church 3 times a week. Like, I know that I am well versed in that, that kind of life. And still to this day, I love the women that I attract who are attracted to the brand, because it's like, I'll be like, okay, who is this that just followed me? And every once in a while I'll be like, Jesus comes first. And I'm like, hell yeah, sister. Like, she's like, I love your shit. She'll DM me or whatever. But Instagram, Facebook is kind of like an afterthought at this point. I did do a poll there maybe a month or so ago. I said, hey, you guys, sorry, I'm not like posting so much on Facebook. I mostly engage on Instagram, and I know I can do the share feature over, but I feel bad like you guys are an afterthought. Do you prefer that I post original content on Facebook, or are you okay if I share from Instagram? I literally was just like, I need to ask these people. Yeah. And they're like, no, I don't care. Like, I got a couple of responses and a couple of DMs. People are like, I just want to see what you're doing. Like, I just love the message. I don't care if the formatting with the hashtags is weird and the @ symbol, like whatever. I just want to see what you're doing. So it's like, all right, well, that works.
So you're posting to Instagram and having it automatically go over to Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah. From your Google Analytics, which one brings you the most traffic to your website, Instagram or Facebook?
Organically, Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I watch that fairly closely. Like, I've started playing more with Facebook ads and Instagram ads. So we had a good chunk of sales come in through a Facebook ad that I was running. But that was just like a tester. And it was on the book that I created. I also turned it into a digital download. The workbook's called 30 Days of Kick-Ass, Get Shit Done / self-love kind of workbook. So you literally can like go through these pages and actually start taking action on your life. And I just decided, I'm like, let's try it. Low-hanging fruit is I have a product that I don't have to touch, that people would just like download it. Let's test this out. So I ran those ads for a while. That did pretty good. It started to die off right at the end around Thanksgiving. So I turned those ads off. But organically speaking, Instagram.
Yeah.
When I do great at Facebook ads, Facebook.
Yeah. I love that you've taken a product-based business and added a digital side of it so you can have some passive income as well without having to ship the products. That's great.
Yeah.
Really diversifying.
I'm lazy. Again, like, burnout is a real thing. And I love this, but I'm like, I do have a team, but I'm ready to start bringing more people on. And I think, I realize like this, when it's a personal brand, when it starts that way, it's kind of hard to let go of control. I think it's one thing if it's, well, no, I think everybody's different. I was going to say, it's one thing if it's like, work gloves. I'm like, no, people could still have some sort of attachment to it. But I've had an attachment to this brand for a long time because it was created from something really personal. And I've had in-person production before when I lived up in Washington State. We moved up there for a while and we moved back down to San Diego. And I'm still making all of the stuff myself, sometimes with help and shipping. I forgot what I was going to say, but anyway.
The burnout is real because you're making it all yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. In order to scale, you're going to have to get some people to help you make it.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. I can't believe you've been able to make that much by yourself and keep it going.
Yeah.
In addition to everything else, that's incredible.
Yeah. It's definitely gone through some ebbs and flows, when you are mostly the person that's doing everything, or at least in control of everything, and you have a lot of, I can kind of see that fork in the road where it would have been good for me to hire more people, or like slowly and deliberately. Obviously, we all go through these like growing pains too of, oh shoot, I hired the wrong person. How do I handle this? But when you're so close to your business, literally, because I wake up and it's in my living room, the studio is in my living room, and you have a lot of personal stuff going on in your personal life, it's hard. How do you navigate it emotionally? How do you handle it? How do you process it? That's kind of what I've been dealing with for the last couple of years. So if you look at the parallels, it makes sense that, I haven't been able to look at things as a bigger picture and be smart with my decisions. There's a period of time where we were really just limping along, and yeah, things are shifting.
Well, you don't know what you don't know till you know.
Exactly.
We learn as entrepreneurs, we learn a lot of lessons by the School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
We don't go back and get the master's or the PhD to the School of Hard Knocks. So do you have any advice for a new product-based business that's just starting up, things they could do to help get them where your business is?
Yeah. First and foremost, because I know a lot of people ask this question, like about photography, just don't worry about the light box. Just take it natural light for I'm going to save you years of frustration, and you don't need a super high-end camera. Take
the
pictures.
Phone works great. Yeah.
Phone works great. Take it natural light. Don't take it direct sunlight. Just YouTube that, for the love of everything. Just YouTube how to take photos in natural light. And then just do the work. I actually, in a big Facebook group, a private one this morning, I took a poll because I was actually just curious. What's your purchasing decision based on the quality of branding and images and graphics? And people don't care as much as we think they do. So it's like, that kind of applies to everything in business. Like, you don't have to get things perfect before you go. Start taking action, just do stuff and test the market, and then and see what happens. If something doesn't happen, change it, shift it. It's not a complete waste of time to just test. And I know that this. 7 years in, I'm still testing every single week. I'm doing something new. Right now, we're going through this process of removing products that aren't selling. Great. Mm-hmm. I don't want them. They're energetically
kill the dogs. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're transitioning over. We're going to do a website shift after the holiday stuff is completely done. And when you come to our website, instead of seeing a whole bunch of products that, are top sellers necessarily, or a ton of products that overwhelm you, it's literally going to be very clear that you can just type whatever message you want and then have it made to order that way. So it's like, because one of the things that I got every single day is, hey, do you do custom work? I'm like, gosh, it's everywhere, all over the site, and it's like, all right, let's just lead with that.
Yeah.
So
that's good. You know what? Businesses are always ebbing and flowing if they want to keep growing and staying on top of it. I think back to the business that I sold, and we had a lot of SKUs, but we rotated about a third of them out every 6 months. Yeah. So we were always bringing new to the business so that, when you've got a customer, the best customer you have is the one you already have.
Yeah.
Get them to buy something else, and you've always got to have something in front of them. So that's good. You're always pivoting. Always. Are there any tools or resources or books you would like to share besides your own?
Oh, yeah.
Because you've got the book on your site.
Yeah. And there's an old book by a woman named Dr. Susan Jeffers, and it actually is what like I remember that time in my life when I was reading this book. It's so old. It's like 60s or 70s. It's not like so old, but it's definitely not like, oh yeah, crush it or whatever. Susan Jeffers wrote this book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And
good message. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's right there in the title, but she breaks things down so beautifully and simply. And she was teaching, she's a professor, I think, and she was teaching this to people back in the 60s and 70s. And I got this message and I was like, finally, somebody, because I've always been a risk taker. I think I just needed, I wasn't reassured that it was okay to take risks as a little girl. And so to read this book and kind of get the permission of like, yes, take risks. You're okay. It's going to be okay. Like, have fun. I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and the reason I say that too is, Becky, I know you work with other entrepreneurs and creatives. I am a coach inside of a program specifically for jewelry designers. And that the one thing that stops people is the fear. It
stops. I hear that a lot too. It stops everybody. Yeah.
And it could be something as simple as like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to mess something up on the back end of my email marketing campaign. It's just like, that kind of fear. It's like, don't stop you. There's help pages. I'm surprised at how many people don't even like look at the help pages. But so that's definitely a book resource. I think Google and YouTube are going to be your best friends. That's the other thing too, is I even get close family. Like, how do you do this? I'm like, literally they could find that answer on YouTube. I did back in 2012. Like, there's so much out there.
Yeah. There's so many people that have the dream and want to do it, but they just don't take the action. And especially out of fear. I do hear that so much.
Yeah.
Was there anything that helped you step out? Because you said you're an introvert. Was it hard for you to step out and be visible and take action in the beginning, or that's kind of in you?
Yeah, I think it is kind of in me. Like, I know, and you know this too, Becky, it's so much easier to get out there when you really freaking love your product. When it's like,
yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, it's like even the person you revere the most, like if you put it in front of them and they could just like bash it all they want, you just like, I don't care, man, I love this. And that's how I felt. Like Oprah, the queen herself, could come to my house and be like, this is a load of crap, and I'd still be like, dude, I love this jewelry though, I don't care what you think. And that just, when you're making stuff that you really believe in, that's probably the best formula to begin with.
You're hearing it from your customers. They love it too. And your sales are showing it.
Yeah.
So is there anything that I didn't ask you that I should have asked you before we sign off on this?
I can't think of anything. But can I ask you some questions?
Sure.
Okay. Because in the stage that I'm at now, and I know if I'm asking this, other people are going to ask it too. When you were in that stage of growing and scaling, what did you look at as far as like what's next to hire out for? What did you come at that with?
My very first hire was, I hired somebody to help me with customer service and putting orders in, processing like that. Mm-hmm. And then my next one was, I did a catalog for a trade show and it was so expensive, I hired somebody to come in-house and do the graphics. But basically what I did is I tried to go, if I can take something off my plate that, like the $10 an hour jobs that I'm doing, if I can take those off my plate so that I can work in my zone of genius or something that will drive revenue, those are the jobs I hired first. So like some of the last positions I hired were like CFO, the high level positions. I tried to fill all of the others, but as we scaled and got bigger, I had to put C-level people in every department. Yeah. But I literally just went department by department and started taking stuff off my own plate to do that. So like I had somebody doing the pick and pack, and I finally had somebody else manufacturing the candles. We had them in-house. We just had employees do that. Yeah. So all those things that could be done by somebody else, I took off my plate. The things where it had to be my voice, my message, my thing. I found I could close the big account sales better than say a hired person. Yeah. My daughter was very good at that also. She worked side by side with me, but I found that if I could work on those things, the company did better.
Okay. And that, I can't believe it's taken me like 7 years to kind of feel, I think I'm asking that too, because I'm like, is this choice that I just made the right one? And I'm like, okay, cool. That's exactly the advice that I just needed to be reassured about.
Do you know what? It's so scary hiring people. I remember hiring the graphics person. Okay. I hired her part-time to do customer service. And I said, now look, this is just part-time. If it doesn't work out, I'm not going to, just be aware. This is not full-time and this is not permanent. Okay. So she comes in as part-time. I found out within a couple of weeks how good she was. And then I'm like, I could send Haley down to the college and learn Adobe Photoshop and get her to do on the other part-time my labels and my catalog. And then I don't have to outsource it. Any bottom line is Haley ended up being full-time really quick. And then I ended up, so it's just kind of the fear of hiring people. But I found as soon as I got somebody in and they started taking things off my plate, the revenue started to show up.
Good. Okay.
So I just kept hiring. And I remember in the beginning, we started in a little small office, and then we ended up outgrowing that in 6 months. We outgrew the next one in 6 months. And bottom line, within, I think it was 5 years, I had about 50, 60 employees on my way to 100. Yeah. So it's just, you just start bringing in more. And then it's like, for me, one of the areas that really helped me was I brought in a big graphics team, and we worked on product development all the time. And I was continually pitching to buyers, and this is the thing product-based people think, I've got to be in full production to sell something. You don't. I pitched so many things that never made it to market just because it was the idea. It's like, let's pitch it. Let's see if it works. And then if they buy it, then you go into production. So that was kind of one of the things that we did that really helped scale us and catapult ourselves really early on, is I was continually pitching. I had all these accounts on the board, and we're like, okay, we're going to pitch Bed Bath Beyond 4 times a year. And we just went down the list and pitched. And one of the things people don't realize on the big accounts, when they buy, you've got 6 or 8 months, sometimes a year to go into production and deliver, because they have to buy so far ahead.
Yeah.
So it's just starting to take that ledge. It's just like getting visible, getting over the fear there, get over the fear of hiring, because really quickly you'll find that the money will flow once you have help.
That's so, okay. I'm just going to share some vulnerable stuff here, because it's like, oh my gosh, I finally so customer service, I hired her almost 2 years ago. Because I looked at what's wrong with what's wrong with me in my business. And it was the stupid customer service questions that came in and I used to actually be in customer service at Amazon.com. So I had, and I was a trainer. I went on to train in Costa Rica when they set up the call center. So I got good at that. And that's like my entire background. But it was I was so good at it, but it still annoyed the heck out of me. So
it can be a drag, and it can be depressing, because you don't hear, typically don't hear from customers unless there's a problem.
Yep.
I found my customer service people, I always had to be throwing pizza to that department, or donuts or movie tickets, because they hear crap all day long.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the first things to get off your plate if it pulls you down.
It did. It got to the point where I'm like, I'd want to respond to the customers as soon as possible. So that'd be one of the first things that I tackle in the morning, but then that sets the whole day up for junk. And so I was like, so I found somebody on Upwork. She'd never been hired on Upwork before, and she's just been a beast. She's been awesome. And she's based out of North Dakota, and we have weekly team meetings. She's turned out to be so good. We talk about marketing. We plan stuff together. She's been phenomenal. And in fact, I've referred her to a lot of other entrepreneurs as well. But then the next phase, and that's why I asked, how do you do this, Becky? It's like the whole a little bit of marketing goes a long way for our sales. Why am I not doing this? And it's because my relationship to it is just so bleh. And I've thought, maybe I need a coach for mindset. Maybe I need to just change my relationship to it. And I'm like, no, I'm just burnt out, and I need somebody to come in here and do it. And what I realized, I need help. And what I realized was, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm going to have to pay her. I don't know if we can afford to have somebody even part-time, but the last few days, I'm like, but what if it like really increases the revenue? I mean, that's a whole point of having him here. And so hearing you say that is actually really reassuring, because it's like, if you hired that gal part-time in the beginning and it's like, holy crap. So that's kind of the future now I'm living into, is like, no, you're going to see a return, because one, you're going to train him or her really well, and it's just going to do so well. You already have an idea of what works, so just train them on how to do it.
Right. And then the other thing is putting systems and processes in place. So I think one of the things that I see product-based people make mistakes on too, they're not promoting enough. Okay. So they're so afraid of being salesy, but on the flip side, some of them are too salesy. They're buy my stuff, buy my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 kinds of promotions you need to be doing every single month. The first one is you just need to be doing everyday visibility promotions, probably around 14 days of the month. The second one is you need to be doing list building promotions to grow your list and grow your customer base, because we're always going to have people fall off. So we've got to be, growing all the time. As she puts it on the whiteboard. I love it. So a list building promotion would be do a giveaway or do something that drives everybody to your list, and then it gets them over to your website. So see where this is going. Then you hit them with retargeting ads. So you're getting new people. And then the third one is you've got to do some sales to get people that are on your list off the sidelines. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear you have to do sales, but you know what? You really do. Look at the big companies that are doing it. So those 3 types of promotions. So if you get help off your plate with the customer service and then get systems and processes in place for sales and marketing, you're on your way.
This is great.
Yeah.
That's really why I got on this podcast, Becky, so you could coach me.
I love it.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I love it. You can ask questions anytime in the Product Biz Made Easy Facebook group too.
I will. Yeah,
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on. It has been great. Tell us before we sign off though, where can we find you?
Yeah, you can find all the jewelry products at badbadjewelry.com. BAD jewelry, spelled not the English way, the American way. And for more information too, if you want more mindset type stuff, like that whole personal empowerment, I also have a website, Sarah Foster, Sarah with an H, sarahfoster.us. And I have my own podcast over there. So
awesome. And is that where your book is too, on Sarah Foster?
No, it's actually on Bad Bad.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it. It's been fun.
Yeah, Becky, this is awesome. Thanks so much.
All right. See ya. Thank you so much for listening to Product Biz Made Easy. Now, I hope you'll go on over to BeckyJAnderson.com and jump into our free resource center, where it's loaded with resources to help you grow your product-based business, as well as join our Facebook group, Product Biz Made Easy. And you can find all those links and resources at BeckyJAnderson.com. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day.